This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 197. On today's show, some updates on what's going on with Dynamite, what's going on with Rampage, where you can find them in the future and where they'll be sticking around, as well as Bray Wyatt, AEW, maybe going back to WWE. We've got some insight on what's going on there. And Ric Flair has a statement that he's released after the Dark Side of the Ring. Of course, we've got to get into the Extreme Rules predictions. The Doc and myself jockey it out to see who can pick the better card. On top of all of that, you know, we've got everything that's going on in the wrestling world. Like I said, doing it with me as always, he's the one, he's the only, he is the Doc, John Macroon. What's up, cuz?
Man, I'm excited, man. Wednesday was hype. New York brought it in terms of AEW Grand Slam. I love the name, being a tennis fan. I think that when you have a dream matchup and then it lives up to the billing, especially the crowd. When the crowd is hype, it just made for a great week of wrestling. I think one company stock is on the rise, but another is trying to put up a fight, potentially. We'll break it all down in regards to how WWE has started to combat AEW's push, and I can't wait to break it all down. Lots of good stuff with WWE, AEW, and our preview. I can't wait to see how this Extreme Rules card shakes out and how we view it going forward. What's on your agenda? What did you think of Monday Night Raw? Because I thought it was really cool to see Bobby Lashley, Roman Reigns, and Big E in the ring together. I just thought, okay, these are the three biggest stars you got. Let's see what you got with it. And I thought it made for some intriguing drama, and at least the crowd was into it to start Raw.
Yeah, like you said, you have a company that's now putting up a fight. I think they realize that they may have taken AEW a little bit softly. And WWE, doing what WWE does, kind of throws everything they can throw at the wall and see what sticks. I think this match was a little bit of that. This is a pay-per-view quality level match where you've got your former champion in Bobby Lashley, your current champion in Big E, and the SmackDown champion all going at it in what was a really good match. This was a really good, interesting match. But again, no doubt about it here. Roman Reigns is the big deal. He is the big show in WWE. And you're trying to lean on him again to salvage and save a Monday Night Raw program that wasn't horrible, but it felt like it could have been better. And I think my big concern with what they did for the main event is this can kind of come and bite you back in the butt, because Roman Reigns was doing a really good job holding SmackDown down. Big E is now your new champion. He should be the one to help elevate that brand. You don't want to necessarily do it off the heels of Roman Reigns or off the shoulders of Roman Reigns. You want to let him kind of do his own thing. And we both agree that Bobby Lashley is the best heel that WWE has going for it. So you've got the biggest heel and you've got your new champion. You need to let them kind of spread their wings and see what they can do. Instead, you throw Roman Reigns in there. Yeah, it made for a really good match. And yeah, it was pay-per-view quality. But you're not going to deliver that every week. You're not going to be able to do that because of how you have your company set up with your brand split, how you have different guys positioned in different angles. So it's just not going to work. It's to me, it feels like it's almost like false advertisement. It's cool for a night, but in the end and in the long run, it's kind of a janky story. And what do we always complain about with WWE? They don't give us good long-term stories. It's a lot of, hey, we got to do this because we got to hit a number. We got to do that because we got to get a pop. Instead of just giving us something really interesting that we can all buy into. And I think this is kind of where this falls. It's there for a number. It's there for a pop. And yeah, it was cool to see. But again, long-term, what does this do? It doesn't do anything for anybody. It definitely doesn't do anything for the Raw brand, which out of the three brands, I think struggles the most. Would you not agree?
Now, here's the thing, too, is that I don't even think it was for the number. They just want to hype up the draft. They just know that when it's draft season and they're going to switch, that the psychological notion is let's start putting the planting the seeds of, who's going to show up when and where. And obviously around Survivor Series in the years past, it's also been formulaic, where you recall where Brock Lesnar took on AJ Styles. So around the time of Survivor Series, they start to plant the seed of brand versus brand, So it's just something that I was just for the night, not looking at it big picture wise. I was entertained by it, and it was something to see, especially in regards to the fact that Big E can hold his own with the likes of Bobby Lashley and Roman Reigns. But here's the problem. Roman Reigns is like so far and light years ahead of Big E and Bobby Lashley that unfortunately for Roman Reigns right now, it's Brock Lesnar and basically nobody else. The Demon is closest after Brock Lesnar, but they don't have a big megastar that you can stand opposed. Like you saw megastar in Kenny Omega, megastar in Bryan Danielson. And
there you go.
You have an opportunity to light it up. But now this is where the problem lies in: is Roman Reigns has cleared out the roster. What's next, other than to shock or just potentially drop the belt to the Demon? But unfortunately, Roman Reigns is a victim of the company where you haven't created enough stars. And that's what they're trying to do a little bit with Big E. But I just think that we have to start paying attention to who's upcoming in the mid-tier that could challenge it. But, hey, for a night, I was down for it, and it was a good match.
But don't you think that there is, I don't know, a bit of an issue here where you've got a pay-per-view coming up this Sunday.
Yes.
The draft's over a week away. On top of that, you've got booking that you're doing for a Saudi Arabia show as well.
Right.
Like you have too many things sometimes going on that you're trying to push all at once. And the storytelling gets a little bit murky and gets a little bit convoluted, Like you've got, we'll just take Roman Reigns, for instance, because I think he's the easiest. You've got a storyline going with Roman Reigns where he's taking on the Demon this weekend.
Right.
He is on Monday night. He was involved in a three-way match with Bobby Lashley and Big E on Monday Night Raw. Again, he has nothing to do with Monday Night Raw, but he was on Monday Night Raw. Also, he's in a storyline with Brock Lesnar for a show that's taking place in Saudi Arabia in a couple of weeks. And then on top of that, he's your biggest card for the draft. So he's all over the place. And that's kind of what WWE kind of seems like, where when I say that it feels like they kind of throw everything at the wall and just kind of see what sticks, that's kind of where that comes from, because a dude like Roman Reigns has 4 really intriguing and 4 deep storylines kind of going on. And WWE is like, here, we'll give it all to you at once. And you're just kind of like, okay, what's going on?
Exactly.
Kind of bonkers to me, man. Kind of bonkers.
Anything else? Anything else stick out to you about Monday Night Raw?
No, I mean, that was kind of the thing that stood out to me. It was, like I said, this is a go home show. And this is kind of where I think Monday Night Raw and SmackDown are a little bit different. I feel like SmackDown usually delivers a little bit more on their go home shows. And I think that's kind of what we got this week. But before we got the SmackDown, we had NXT. And I want to run this by you because we're 2 weeks into this new NXT 2.0, and I'm kind of out on it. It's a little bit wonky for me. It's a little bit try hard, and I don't mind that it's try hard. Like if I was to watch ROH or if I was to watch Impact, I know what I'm getting there. I had the best NXT version of NXT when it was ran by Triple H, when it wasn't this NXT 2.0 where it looks like a fruit roll-up exploded all over the arena. I find it really hard to get into and get invested in some of these guys who are up there cutting what feels like it's their second promo of their life. And they seem a little uncomfortable. They seem a little bit stiff. And it's hard for me to watch a WWE product like that. And it's also weird to me to watch some of these younger guys go up against some of these grizzled NXT vets. Like you got Tommaso Ciampa in there with a guy who's basically been on TV for 2 weeks. And I'm just kind of like, all right, I'm supposed to take this guy who's been on TV for 2 weeks serious with Tommaso Ciampa, who's basically held the NXT championship, 2-3 times and has been a total badass. For me, I am finding NXT 2.0 much more difficult to watch. And I even proposed to you, and maybe I'm out of line. Let me know if I'm out of line here. I even proposed to you before the show. I'm okay if we start skipping NXT. And we kind of go back to when they have something huge that happens, we talk about it, but it's not going to make our rundown every single week like it has been. To me, it
Absolutely
just doesn't
unacceptable.
feel like
This is
it
a
lives up to
professional wrestling podcast. So here's the compromise. You watch it until your mind says this is garbage, and you turn it off and you document how long you get into it. You don't have to watch all 2 hours. If it's the first match, first segment, no, I'm just kidding around. You could just do that as a bit if you want. But yeah, absolutely. I didn't even watch it at all. I couldn't tell you what's going on, to be honest with you, because the sheer amount of volume of professional wrestling out there now is so much. And Impact is a great 2 hour program. Now, this week, the extra hour basically was donated to Rampage because it was Grand Slam and it was two hour shows that were just not missed. You just were not going to miss it. So NXT and their flamingo logo is something that's absolutely not even on my radar. It'll be good to see. Potentially, you can tell me the progress of the Steiner boy, the new guy that they signed, the ex-wrestler, whenever he debuts or what his gimmick is. We'll prepare the audience for that. But yeah, we don't have to recap anything unless it's something that maybe you can transition into a news portion where something that you want to bring up that's interesting. But yeah, no problem at all. Unless it's interesting or something that could be storyline driven that we can debate, I'm okay. NXT is not anywhere on my radar either.
All right, cool. I just wanted to run it by you because I've given it a solid shot last 2 weeks, and it's been a grind for me. So, like you said, there's just so much wrestling we have to consume in a week. It's just almost not worth it. You know what I'm saying?
There's only one kind of grind that Adam likes to get into, and it's not watching wrestling.
That's right. You know it. All right. So I mentioned earlier that I feel like SmackDown does a better job of giving you your go-home show. And I thought this was a prime example. This week's show was a better go-home show, in my estimation, than Monday Night Raw. I thought they did a pretty decent job setting everything up that's going to take place at Extreme Rules. And out of all of this, I think there was something that might have been missed by the casual fan. And it's Montez Ford. And to me, and I think to you as well, and for a long time, it has really been obvious that he is the Shawn Michaels of the Street Profits. And I think whenever we see a tag team, we do this because there's this formula with WWE where one guy is the Shawn Michaels and one guy is the Marty Jannetty. And the Shawn Michaels is the guy who can basically talk on the microphone, has all the character, has good in-ring work, and has the potential to be a monster superstar like Shawn Michaels was. Whereas there's another guy who's kind of the workhorse, and he's good, but he's not great, and he has a bit of a ceiling. And that was Marty Jannetty in the Rockers. Montez Ford gets put into a match with Roman Reigns, and they have a very good match. Very, very good match. Montez Ford has all of the tools to be a monster superstar in WWE, which then leads to the question, when does WWE break them up? And would you do it sooner or would you do it later? Because I think I would let this build. If you remember, I think the thing that was so jarring about when the Rockers broke up was they had been a team for so long. And you could see subtle things start to happen. And then all of a sudden, Shawn Michaels seemed like he got a big ego. And when he ended up kicking Marty Jannetty through that plate glass window, like the fact that I can just bring that up and everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about makes it such a salient moment. I would almost do something similar to help set Montez Ford up for the future. Do you agree, or would you do it? Would you do it a little bit sooner?
Man, poor Dawkins, kind of like the Vito of the
right.
Poor Dawkins. Oh man,
but
Montez Ford
out of the
is
two,
so powerful.
Montez Ford is the better one, right?
When his leg stands on a table, it breaks. The announce table. Did you see that botch?
Yeah,
that was something that was like he handled it well, but he belonged in there. It was a situation in which we talked about it in the group chat in regards to, well, the babyface got his ass kicked and nobody helped him. So it's really interesting because I don't see it. I obviously see the entertaining factor. I see the fact that this is a character that you can't potentially take your eyes off of, but have they done enough to rocket ship him? No. He's not yet upper mid-card talent. He's lower to bottom tier mid-card. So now you got to put him in some singles feuds and things like that. No, I think if you do it, WrestleMania, I think what you do then, the best way to do it is, I mean, I don't know if it's the best way, but maybe I'm thinking the tried and true way. They get the titles, they have a good run, and then they start losing, and boom, boom, boom. Maybe an influence, maybe his wife, maybe, in that vein, you potentially start to plant the seed of doubt for Dawkins. But it's just unfortunate because you just haven't tapped into the full experience of the Street Profits yet. They're just coming into their own. And so, I don't know, could you get another run out of them? Potentially to make some money and do some things. But yeah, down the road, you could see a run like this. But why you got to be all racial? Why has it got to be Shawn Michaels? Why isn't he the Kofi Kingston of the Street Profits?
Because I think Montez Ford has
superstardom.
I think he has the it factor.
Okay,
Kofi's great, but I think he has the it factor, and I think Shawn Michaels was a guy that went from a tag team straight to the top and had it.
Okay, I'm interested to see where it goes. Yeah, but you can see it. It's coming. I think that in regards to what was going on there, you saw an opportunity for someone to hold their own, and they did. And then the crowd was into it. I thought it was a good match. The botch was funny. I thought he handled it well. But how did you make how that played out? Did you think it was okay for him to get squashed there by Roman and to get that family beatdown?
I think what it does is it gives you a little bit of a rub, right? Like, we all knew going into that match he wasn't going to win it. So how do you make him look the best you can make him, or make him look the toughest you could make him, while still keeping Roman looking as dominant as possible? I don't think that's bad storytelling. I don't think that's bad booking. It's one of those things where you got to help elevate two guys. You essentially have to keep Roman at this frantic, manic pace that you have him going. And at the same time, you don't want to dim a light like Montez Ford. So how do you do that? You stack the cards against him. You stack the numbers against him. You basically let Roman run roughshod on him. And it looks almost like it is a jail sex beatdown. And that's what you got. And I think it makes Montez look a little bit stronger in the long run. And that's why you do it that way. I don't think it hurts a guy like that. You want to get into some AEW? Because I think AEW's had the best wrestling all week.
Ooh, 4 amazing hours. Grand Slam was hype, especially Wednesday night. They were into it. And I thought, maybe you could nitpick and say, well, do you put Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, first against Kenny Omega? But to set the scene, if you're going to have a 30-minute wrestling match and you're now building your company as a professional wrestling company, yeah, that's what you do. And oh my God, they delivered because of the crowd as well. They were into it. And it was a great matchup, highlighted by great psychology, great in-ring work, intrigue back and forth. And the only thing that I guess you can debate out of it, because it was a 5-star, 10-star, 100-star match, it was well worth it and just sets up an opportunity maybe to do a 60-man Iron Man with these guys. Would you have handled it by finishing it with a draw? Because by the time it hit 20 minutes, you knew, okay, you can't have anybody lose this match. Who goes over? It's really a great question that will soon be answered in their coming matches, but I'm not sure. I think, is Bryan Danielson the guy worthy next to take the belt off of Omega? I think so. I think then you could set up Hangman Page and Danielson, which is fresh. And so I would never be opposed to having the American Dragon just come right in, and when the time comes on a big stage at the next pay-per-view, he takes the belt. I think Omega had a great run with it, and Omega can now get on the chase or get on another feud as well, potentially with some other members in AEW. But man, oh man, that was some 30-minute match that you can watch 2, 3. It'll stand the test of time as a match that people will want to watch.
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic match. I thought it was wonderful. The initial question I had for this segment was, where would you rank this? And you could go all time. I was going to leave it open-ended. You can go all time. You can go this year. You can go whatever you want. I thought it was a great way to end the match, is with the draw. For me, I think this is definitely a top 10 match all time. I think this year it's definitely a top 3 match. And I think you'd be hard to find 2 other matches that you would put above it. I thought it was great. For it being a TV match, and for you only having 30 minutes, I thought it set the stage for just what you said. Going forward, Bryan Danielson will be the guy to take the belt off of Kenny Omega. And you'll do it in a 60-minute gauntlet match, right? You'll do it in a 60-minute match or 60-minute time limit match. And it'll be similar. It won't be to the level that Omega Okada was. I don't know if you remember that match. Omega Okada battled it out for 60 minutes in New Japan, and it ended in a draw. And it was one of the greatest matches I think I've ever seen. They had 3 matches that absolutely tore the house down, and it was incredible. I remember, I'm almost positive I was sending you YouTube clips where they were all in Japanese. We couldn't understand a thing that they were saying, but you were just glued to your phone, you were glued to your computer, glued to your television set as you watch these matches unfold. I think we'll get something similar here, but it's going to be down the road. I thought this was a great way to kick off the Grand Slam event. I thought this was a great way to kick off Dynamite. This is a thing that I think AEW does really, really well. To me, it seems like every wrestling story they have going on is really interesting. It's really, really good. It's hard when I watch AEW, it is hard for me to pick out that salient moment, that one time where I'm like, okay, we have to talk about this, because I feel like there's so much there for us to get into. This week, Dynamite was a little bit easier because the first 30 minutes were outrageously awesome. And I was watching it and I was glued to my television set. And you know how my Wednesday nights go. My Wednesday nights are absolutely bonkers because I'll record podcasts until about 10 o'clock in the evening, and then I got to edit one really quickly. And then it's like I can sit down, I can eat dinner sometime between 10:30 and 11 o'clock at night. And usually that's when I'm starting to watch Dynamite. And I got to get through 2 hours of it before I can go to bed. And I didn't want it to stop. Normally I'm like, all right, come on, let's go. This was great. This was absolutely fantastic. And then you juxtapose that with what you got on Saturday night. And I thought Saturday night, or you juxtapose that with what you got on Friday night. And I thought Friday night, I thought Rampage was just as good. I thought you did a really good job. You did a lot of interesting things on Rampage. Like, I'm really interested in what's going on with Chris Jericho and Jake Hager and the whole thing with all the MMA fighters and what is it, Team American Dream or whatever the hell it is. You had what is his name, Mazalov, show up and punch Chris Jericho. And look, Jericho took a pretty sturdy bump on the head with the knee strike. So I think that is interesting as all hell. I thought CM Punk and Will Hobbs, I thought their match, it went a little bit longer than I expected, and it was a lot better than I expected. I think you get a lot of really good wrestling content from AEW, and they do a fantastic job just packaging it and selling it to you, where, I don't know, like this Friday was 2 hours long, but it moves so quick. Same thing with Dynamite. It's 2 hours long, but before you know it, you're 45 minutes in and you're like, holy shit, it feels like 15. And you can't say that about anybody else. And that's how you know you have a really good wrestling product. When you get up to go to the bathroom and you happen to walk by your kitchen stove and you can see the time and you're like, holy shit, I've been watching this for almost 50 minutes. It feels like I just sat down. That's a good wrestling product right there. And I think that's what we're getting with AEW. It is really hard right now. AEW is on a fantastic roll, and it is really, really difficult, I think, for WWE to match up with them. I do have concerns for AEW. Those concerns revolve around limiting some of the younger stars, because you don't want to go with all of these older WWE guys that got released. Yeah, it's cool. It's great pop, but you've got some really good young talent. You really need to push them. And I just don't want to see the older guys get the push over the younger guys, almost like WCW back in the day. Do you not agree that AEW is giving you better shows, basically pound for pound, ounce for ounce, and as far as timeline goes, than anything that WWE or Impact or anybody else is giving you?
Yeah, absolutely. They got the hottest company. They're on par now with the big dogs. You got the hottest matches. I mean, they just delivered. What would preclude anybody from watching AEW at this point? It's so exciting, so unbelievably fun to pay attention to. Everything's fresh. The storytelling as well. It seems like the imprint has been made by some of the older veterans that are there. You're starting to see the development. I mean, the Super Click was cool to see. I mean, you're starting to see, like, okay, the heels do heel type stuff, and you then have to root for Jungle Boy to kind of get over. I thought that was cool, the way in which they set it up, where they did flips, they ran back and forth, they kiss Adam Cole, and then they do a flip and do a kick. I've never seen that. That was pretty sweet. And, you get excited by the things that you saw. There was almost a major botch, though. with CM Punk and Hobbs. Hobbs has got to learn when you got to jump and flip, because I you know what I did was interesting, because when I went back and watched the Danielson match, because I watched it twice, I slowed down the part where Danielson took that crazy bump, because the guy's been dumped on his head a bunch of times. I want to, what I do is on certain big spots, I kind of see what the guys do, and especially on the Canadian Destroyer and moves on the top rope, I kind of see what the guys do. And the thing is that's important is the kick, the part where you jump off the rope so that you can flip your body over. Will Hobbs almost probably forgot the part where you got to jump and get your body over there, because he almost got dumped on his head. And that was almost a colossal train wreck. But I agree with our group chat. I thought the CM Punk match was good. And I think that, in terms of Hobbs, you position him as a bigger dude. He held his own, but it wasn't as clean as you would have liked.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't as clean as you like, especially him damn near falling on his head. I was like, whoa, hey, buddy. That was all on him. He just didn't push off.
Yes.
CM Punk did everything he could do, and Hobbs just did not push off.
He didn't push off.
He was supposed to do.
The Canadian Destroyer is crazy, because I think okay, if you don't time that shit right, you're getting your head basically squashed, and you're putting all that weight on your head. The Canadian Destroyer is no joke to try and take as a bump, because you basically have to have the guy, jump down, and then you got to jump as the guy flips over, and that shit is crazy. And when these guys make these moves look that easy, that's why you give them credit for Omega and Danielson. It was great. Do you like, real fast before we get to our preview, do you like the American Dragon, kind of a little bit going away from the yes and more of this I'm a badass kind of dude? Do you like the American Dragon 2.0 in AEW?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Bryan Danielson he's trying to disassociate with WWE. He came out, he wrote a really good speech in the Players Tribune, thanked WWE for everything. It was really nice. But he is trying to distance himself, and he's trying to basically separate that old character from this new one. And I think that's great, because this is the one thing that I think is really, really cool about wrestling. You can go be whoever you want, anywhere you want. And if you're a smart fan, if you're what we call a smart mark, you've watched them here, you've watched them there, and you kind of carry that with you. But he's trying to be somebody different here, and he's trying to do it. He's trying to bring some of the things that everybody really liked, but he's also trying to revamp his image and what he is, and I love it. I love him as a badass. I think it's great. Look, the thing that was interesting about Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan in WWE, he was the underdog that got over. He wasn't supposed to be that guy. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. When he won those championships, it was because the crowd was behind him, because he got the push, because you couldn't deny him anymore. He forced Vince McMahon's hand there. Vince didn't want to give him those belts. He forced his hand. And he basically grabbed the crowd and grabbed their attention, and he didn't have a choice. Vince didn't have a choice. And now what you have here is you've got a guy who is beloved by the fans, and he's trying to do something new, wants to be different. I think it's great. I absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic. You want to do some predictions here?
Here we go. Extreme Rules,
all right,
baby.
let's get into it. All right. So I think arguably the biggest match on the Extreme Rules card. And Extreme Rules takes place this Sunday at 8 o'clock. You can catch it on the Peacock Network, or if you're like John and myself, a guy. So we've got the Universal Championship match. And this, I think, is probably the biggest match on this card, maybe the most interesting, because of who's in it. Roman Reigns, we've already said, he's the hottest name in WWE. He's the baddest dude on the block. Going against not Finn Balor, but going against the Demon. And on Friday night, you got to see the Demon unleashed a little bit. I think WWE has kind of painted themselves into a bit of a corner here, because there's no way I think Finn Balor / the Demon wins this Extreme Rules match. I think the belt stays on Roman Reigns, because again, you're booking a wrestling show in Saudi Arabia versus Brock Lesnar. I think you do a bit of a disservice here to Finn Balor and his character, the Demon, because he will suffer his first loss. I've got Roman Reigns winning this, and to me, it's unfortunate, and it makes me a little bit upset.
Wrong. if I'm going to go down because I'm getting my ass kicked in, I'm going to have to go bold here, and I'm going to probably go opposite of you in a lot of ways. Roman Reigns retains, but the Demon wins via disqualification. There will be some hijinks, hilarity, something crazy happens. The bloodline gets involved. Something happens where you can't. If you have the Demon debut and he's out there and you have him come out after such a long period of time, which is expected, right? Then you have to have him win. But yeah, I could even see, I wouldn't be shocked if you have him win it outright as a surprise. But I get the credit if he wins, but I say it's via disqualification. I don't think he gets the belt, but I got Finn Balor winning this matchup, but by disqualification because of the fact that, one, if he wins, I can still take the title. And two, you don't really need a title for Lesnar and Reigns, but I don't see them switching it up because Reigns is just the overwhelming monster and the face of the company. You need that. You need that all the way around. But you can't. There's no logical way for the Demon to lose other than by a disqualification.
All right. So I just want to make sure I've got you, Finn Balor via DQ, winning the match. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the SmackDown Women's Championship. Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair. I got no idea how this one's going to go. I have a bit of an inkling, but really, I don't think you're wrong whichever way you pick. Who do you have winning this one?
No, you can't have her return and then have drop the belt. So it's Becky Lynch all the way. It's going to be a spectacular match. Hijinks, hilarity again. Potentially she does something to get herself DQ'd as well. But I go with potentially the Becky Lynch getting over, but in a much better match than the first contest they had.
Yeah, I think Becky Lynch wins this one. And again, same thing. I think it'll be a much, much better match. She just came back. This will be her first match back. So, how are you going to have her drop the belt after her first match? I don't think you do that. An interesting one here, the Raw Women's Championship. Charlotte Flair versus Alexa Bliss. I can't stand Charlotte Flair, and I kind of love whatever we're doing with Alexa Bliss. It's weird. It's quirky. I think she is great in the ring. I really wish she didn't suffer so many damn concussions. It'd make this pick that much easier for me. But I'm going to go Alexa Bliss, even though I think Charlotte might win this.
Alexa Bliss, huh?
Yeah. I just can't stand Charlotte.
See, I got to go opposite because of the fact that, Charlotte is the queen of getting the belt and losing the belt, right?
Yeah,
but you got to have it for Survivor Series. You got to. So give me Charlotte Flair.
All right. United States Championship. Damian Priest versus Sheamus versus Jeff Hardy. Who do you have?
Easy. The champ is a guy that he's one of those guys that the company relishes. You just can't take your eyes off of him. His entrance is sweet, timed perfectly with the bow and arrow type thing that he does in his way in. His promos are clean. Look is clean. He's got the moves. He can wrestle. He's got all the tools needed to be a primetime player. Now you just got to start racking up some matches and some memories. Damian Priest, baby.
Yeah, I've got Damian Priest winning this too. I think he's a guy who has a rocket ship strapped to his back. I don't see him dropping it to a guy like Sheamus or Jeff Hardy. I do expect a fantastic match from those three guys, though. Now, the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. We've got the Usos, who are the defending champs, versus the Street Profits. We talked a little bit about the Street Profits and when do you possibly break them up. Who do you have winning this one?
Ooh, that's interesting. Do you give the Street Profits the situation here, huh? It's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
No, do you break them up here? I mean, that's the rumor, right? Do you get it going at this point in time? This is the toughest thing to think about at this point in time because you put it out there. Man, it's tough too because of the way in which this could go down. They could go down in multiple ways. I want to see the Street Profits do a bunch more. I want to see, potentially them get success, but I'm a big fan of the Usos. You know that here on this podcast. I think that they're great. So for me, you got to stick with the Bloodlines. I mean, doesn't the Bloodlines look sweet when they walk out to their entrance and then all three hold their belts up? It's one of the, and especially with the shot down low, it's one of the premier wrestling angles right now. So I'm going to take the Usos.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Usos as well. I don't know why you would take it off them. I was surprised when they put them on them, but I don't think at this point you take them off them. So besides that reasoning, I'm just going to go with the Usos for it. Now, we've got a match that kind of has come out of nowhere, and I'll be interested. This will probably open the show. Liv Morgan, Carmella. I don't really care who wins this match. Not really invested in this storyline. I'm going to go Liv Morgan because I feel like she's getting a bit of a push.
Sure, why not? I think this opportunity now, too, WWE can revamp the women's division too a little bit more. It's kind of taking a little bit of a backseat to Charlotte and the top dogs. You got to kind of mix in some more in the mid card.
Yep. Let's go WWE Championship now. We've got Big E defending versus Bobby Lashley. Who do you have winning this one?
Big E, baby. That would be a travesty if Bobby got his back. I mean, that would be the ultimate travesty. It's Big E, easy. One of the easiest ones we can decide on.
Yeah, I think Big E wins this too. Like, that would just be so sad to give it to him and then take it right off of him. That makes sense. All right, so Drew McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal. This might be your second opening card match. I'm going to go Jinder in this, or I'm going to go Drew in this one.
Oh, I thought you were going to just give me the layup for the win. Jinder, that would be a long shot, too, to have him go over. Would you dip Drew McIntyre to that degree to lose in this feud again? No, this feud's done deal, baby. You got to go Drew McIntyre.
All right, so just to quickly recount, we both have Drew McIntyre, we both have Big E, we both have Liv Morgan, we both have the Usos, we both have Damian Priest, we both have Becky Lynch. Now things get a little bit different here. You've got Charlotte Flair retaining. I've got Alexa Bliss winning. You've got Finn Balor winning via DQ, which is important. I've got Roman Reigns winning and retaining. So it'll be interesting. As far as the picks go, I hold a 5-point lead over the Doc, 8.5 to 3.5. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. You want some news and notes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What you got? I know there's going to be some talk about the plane ride from hell.
Yeah, I've got a ton to get through here. So after attempting rehabilitation for his bulky knee for months, MVP underwent surgery last week, per Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer. MVP was dealing with that bad knee for months and was considering arthroscopic surgery, but attempted to avoid the procedure to stay on television. He was written off by WWE last week, with the company using a kayfabe rib injury to explain the absence. This likely explains why Bobby Lashley has been getting increased mic time in recent weeks, as he'll have to fend for himself for the foreseeable future. Now, Keith Lee was almost gifted a nickname. Actually, he was gifted a nickname, and it is, I think, is a travesty. Keith Lee has been given the nickname of Bearcat. This came during a recent dark match. What do you think about this?
Ooh, that didn't hit me
Keith
right the first time,
Bearcat
right?
Lee.
Real? That did not hit me well at all. It's the first I'm hearing of it. That's just a thumbs down, man.
It sounds awful, right?
It has no positive bearing on me. What on earth are they thinking? Who? Oh my God! What do you think?
I think it's horrible. I think it's absolutely gross. I don't know why you would give that nickname to him. So I don't know. It's WWE though. They change everybody's name. You realize they were going to change Adam Cole's name when he was going to the main roster? There was talks about changing his name from Adam Cole.
Oh my God!
Like what?
Right.
Why? Doesn't make any sense.
None at all.
In an interview on Wrestle Talk podcast, Ricky Starks confirmed he is now a permanent member of AEW's Rampage commentary team. He is replacing Mark Henry. Starks made his debut on the Rampage commentary team, not this past Friday, but the previous Friday, along Excalibur and Taz and Chris Jericho. There was no confirmation that this was a permanent change until this podcast where Ricky Starks basically said it. So the last 2 weeks, Ricky Starks has been on the commentary team, and it looks like he's going to stay there. I think getting Mark Henry off was probably the smart idea. A big update has come to light regarding the future of AEW, sticking with AEW, and their programming on TNT and TBS via a new report from Variety. The report states that AEW Dynamite will officially be moving from TNT to TBS on January 5th of 2022, which was already pretty much known. We've already discussed that a couple of times. However, there has been a change of plans because Rampage was initially going to be moved to TBS as well, but that's no longer the case. Rampage will be staying on TNT after Dynamite moves to TBS, according to the report. So basically what's going on is AEW is crushing it so much, and the Turner AOL network is like, hey, we want to boost both stations. So TBS and TNT will be getting one of the shows to help fill out their roster. So if you want to watch Dynamite, going to be on TBS. You want to watch Rampage, it's going to be on TNT. Now, remember that Bray Wyatt was released by WWE back on July 31st? And you remember how he was under that 90-day non-compete clause?
Yes.
Well, WrestlingNews.co is reporting that he has the option to waive that clause. He has the ability to say, I'm good. Now, if that's accurate and he chooses to do that, that would mean he wouldn't be paid for any of the time during the 90 days, but he would be free to sign and appear wherever he wants. And it's been intimated that next week may be the week that he appears on AEW television. Now, this is because the show is taking place in Rochester, New York, and that is the home of Brody Lee, who was friends with Bray Wyatt. And there has also been these rising tensions between the Dark Order, which may lead many to speculate that Bray Wyatt may become the new leader of the Dark Order. What do you think about that?
Ooh.
How cool would that be?
That would
so he's
be-
not going to, he can't get paid. At least not up front, he can't get paid. They can pay him on the back end if they wanted to. Can't get paid, but he can show up and he can pretty much do whatever he wants.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I think it'd be another big pop, huh?
Yeah, it would be absolutely bonkers.
I can't wait to see it, man.
Okay, so you talked about it as we started this segment. We've got some news on the plane ride from hell. By the way, I did watch that, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't necessarily think what Tommy Dreamer said was all that bad. I think he was very flippant in his response, and I think that was probably the worst thing because it came off a little disrespectful. I think Tommy Dreamer was put in a weird spot where he was trying to defend a friend of his in Ric Flair, and he probably could have said things a little bit better. But I don't think he said anything that was all that inflammatory. I really feel like a lot of what came out of the documentary, if that's what we want to call it, was a lot of cancel culture from a lot of different people. And to me, it was kind of annoying. I don't feel like what Tommy Dreamer said was all that bad. But that's it. That's like, we'll digress there. Me and Alyssa ended up getting into a bit of a conversation about this after we watched it, because I was like, I don't see what the big deal is. But here nor there, WWE Hall of Famer Ric Flair has released a statement on Monday night in which he denies the allegations made against him on last week's episode of Vice Television series Dark Side of the Ring. In the statement he posted on Twitter's multiple posts on Twitter, Flair denied that he sexually assaulted a female flight attendant on the WWE charter flight from the United Kingdom to the United States in 2002. Flair would go on to say, to clarify, the helicopter, as it was called, is accurate. I wish I could blame it on youth, but it was a case of drinking too much and being inappropriate, and I apologize for that and have countless times over the years. I made some bad decisions during dark periods of my life, and it is something I've spent a significant part of the years I was given by doctors in 2017 trying to make right. I condemn sexual assault in any way, shape, or form, and I could and have written books, as have others that have covered my transgressions. I have made some terrible decisions, but I've never forced myself on anyone in any period. Doyle and other flight attendants on the plane ride from hell reached a monetary settlement with WWE in the aftermath of that flight. She was the one who basically said that Ric Flair cornered her in a galley on the airplane and basically Ric Flair forced her hand onto his penis, which I'll be honest with you, I could see that. That is sexual assault. That is wrong. There's like no two ways you can really work around that. Like that's wrong. Ric Flair is wrong for doing that. And it sounds like we like the plane ride from hell is like one of your favorite stories because you get excited every time it comes up and every time it gets talked about. For me, it's just something that kind of happened. I think the big thing I always took out of it was that you had a guy like Brock Lesnar and Kurt Hennig basically wrestling and almost broke apart the entire plane because those are some big boys. The whole thing with Ric Flair, the whole helicopter dance, like if you've ever been in a locker room with a bunch of boys, right? With a bunch of guys, there's always one guy who does the helicopter. Like there just is. Like every hockey locker room I've ever been a part of, there's always one guy who does the helicopter, or they walks around like extremely naked. Usually it's this guy. I'm just walking around. I don't give a shit, whatever. There have been times where we've had guys basically stand next to another guy and basically put their junk on their shoulder, and like that is sexual assault. You don't think of it that way as a guy. You're just kind of laughing. You're like, that's gross. Get out of here. But that is what that is. I think Ric Flair in this case was wrong. I don't necessarily think what Tommy Dreamer said was as bad as everybody made it out to be. I understand him getting suspended, but I don't think he should lose his job. Am I wrong for that?
No, I think that time will help out, especially like you said, the apology came out, and it's just like you said, she shouldn't have said it. You can think it. He shouldn't have said it publicly, especially with the way creative editing can be done and things like that. And unfortunately, he's lost opportunities now with Busted Open, no longer with Impact currently. So he's got to lay low a little bit and, show some reconciliation a little bit. I just think it was a tough thing all the way around. And obviously, you just can't bring up the settlement and things like that. You just got to say, you just got to keep harkening back to it was the 80s and it was debaucherous and there was a lot of alcohol involved and there were ramifications and hopefully it doesn't happen again. You have to show some level of reconciliation to the degree in which the cameras are staring at you in the face. So, and especially knowing that there is a cancel culture, knowing the opportunities that you have. If you're Tommy Dreamer, to be honest, these days, you're Tommy Dreamer. Busted Open, Impact. You have your own podcast. Knock, 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 knock. Hey, we want to do an interview. It'd be great. We want to get you featured. We want to have you talk about the plane ride from hell. Sorry, dog. I'm busy. Bye. Click. You have your own prod. You have your own brand. You have the podcast. You have House of Hardcore. If you want to talk about shit like that, you then go, oh, this is great. I could talk about it. And then you elaborate for an hour or two with your boys and have Brock Lesnar show up, or you have somebody else, or Ric Flair, and you set it up in your own way. But you don't get taken down on somebody else's show. And that's what happened. It was a mistake for him to even show up there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, sometimes you do have to be smarter because he is so involved with not just Impact, but like you said, Busted Open Radio, and he's got so many other things going on. And I'll be honest with you, I think Tommy Dreamer is a really good guy. I think Tommy Dreamer is a really good wrestling mind. And you sometimes say things that get you in trouble. And listen, this is a guy who says a lot of things who get himself in a lot of trouble. So I understand it. Again, I just felt like it was kind of taken over the top, but you're right. Like, I can't argue you on what you're saying. What you say makes a ton of sense, and I think you hit the nail on the head. So it's just unfortunate that Tommy Dreamer has basically put himself in this situation. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it unfolds. It'll be a story we'll watch for sure.
Is that it for this week's professional wrestling news and notes, my friend?
That's it. That's all we got.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Anytime a big wrestling event is going down, make sure you hit us up. We'll be watching. We'll be commenting. We'll be throwing out the funny GIFs and reacting to all things Extreme Rules, AEW, WWE, Raw, SmackDown, maybe a little bit of NXT at the way, way end of a show. If you definitely are fiending for NXT, hop on around the 38 to 40-minute mark of our broadcast, where we maybe touch on one important nugget of NXT for the time being. Because great things ahead for the world of professional wrestling as we hit the fall. AEW's riding high in momentum, and so are we here at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, just type in Detroit Sports Podcast, and whenever you find us, hit that subscribe button, leave a great 5-star review, and you can then find our daily podcast where we break down Detroit sports, professional wrestling, and all things entertainment. Thanks, cuz. Look forward to next time, my friend.